this will hopefully be the last stream session if I have enough time. Uh, so this is we're gonna just start off right off the bat. Hometown, probably the most dense level in this game when it comes to material for me to talk about. So this might take a little bit longer than other missions. Wolf's Den, not that great of a mission, not much content-wise. Some like thematic and aesthetic things to bring up. Captive is basically a continuation of Hometown. I kind of lump them in as two missions because they're both Farah's backstory. And then Old Comrades, there's content of note. It's just on the shorter end of the missions in this game. So let's just start Hometown right off the bat. I'm going to be discussing We Need to Talk About What Happens to Farah by writer Russell Hawley. He interviewed the narrative director of this game, and he learned why they portrayed Farah the way they portrayed her, specifically in regards to the traumatic events they put her through. I mean, you'll see. In the narrative director kind of showed his reasoning for putting Farah through all this. Do note that, remember, like, this takes place after the previous mission where Farah's brother used chemical weapons on Russian soldiers. So starting right off, this seems like a cutscene, but I can move around my view with the right stick. If I look left, she actually looks up. Basically implying that she's lying down like this, and she's turning her head left like that. If I try to move the triggers, you can see her arms moving. The subtitles do say that that's Farah. No, that's her mother. It's a gruesome image. It is a gruesome image. The game locks your perspective on it at first. And, I mean, you do have the choice to look around. And I'm not sure if my movements are causing the game to progress. But, players might not even know this, because this does look like a cutscene. It's built like a cutscene, but it's an interactive sequence. Nonetheless, the developers talked about, the narrative director, he directly mentioned how he wanted to make players like experience these things instead of just watching it, because it's a game. He used the interactive medium directly. He directly said that the interactivity immerses the player in these darker story parts better than simply watching it. And I don't know how hitting the triggers makes it more effective, or the fact that I could look away and like do my camera movements like that. So if I hit my objectives, they basically show brick, hit square for brick. This is the same prompt that it pulls up with the same font. If you want to pick up a gun in multiplayer, there just isn't a gun to pick up. You're saying it's a standard, just interactive pickup, like item to pick up, but still. Do note that Farah is a child in this mission. We directly see her blood and her injuries. The trigger in this segment actually shows an attack. It's showing that she is attacking this metal beam. So here we have a disaster crew rescuing Farah from the rubble of this building that we can assume has been bombed out because it's the Middle East. Why else would a child be in a bunch of rubble? Ooh, I can hear my own stream. So moving on, you have a bunch of Middle Eastern men saving here. They're all speaking English. The game consciously makes you look at her body as they pull her up to show that you're playing as a little child. Farah calls her father Baba, Middle Eastern term of endearment for your dad, and they pull out Farah's mom. And then they mention Hadir. There's another bombing. It's supposed to take place during the Russian invasion of this country. You see civilians fleeing, you see dead civilians everywhere. It's a shit show. It's graphically very intense. There's no music in this sequence, it's just ambient sound. You're still in control here. You can still look around. You see other parents holding their kids. They're all covered in rubble and dust and dirt. You can tell that some characters look ethnically a little bit different than others, showing the ethnic diversity of the Middle East. So in this case, they're referencing the Russians, and and these Russians are just gunning civilians down in the street. Russia in the 1980s invaded Afghanistan. It was part of a proxy war between Russia and the U.S. Basically, it was a proxy war. The U.S. backed Afghan rebels with weaponry, training, and intelligence, while the Russians directly fought on boots on the ground, as well as backed anti-religious figures that fought back against the religious groups that the U.S. military was funding. This is close to home to me because I'm Afghan, and seeing the Russians invade a Middle Eastern country, slaughter its civilian populace, and basically put the country to siege, total control. They're gassing these people. This gas is revealed to be the chemical weaponry that's being used in the main plot. So here we're looking for Hadir. There he is. Farah is coughing. Farah has been injured by this chemical weapon. You can see the haze of it outside. It's to note that Hadir is bigger and larger than Farah. It's implied that he's also older. He refused to tell. So they directly avoid giving Farah a mask, which is interesting because she's the younger one. I'm not sure if they're trying to push the stereotype that boys are preferred in Middle Eastern families than girls. It is a cultural issue that is being brought to light by Western people. So if you look here, you see real pictures of children. We see a real man with an AK-47, presumably him. Let me just discuss this segment real quick. So this home, there still is the generic paint chips, the dust and grime from a Middle Eastern place in this game. However, it still is it's a family's home. The detail to make this place feel lived in, the slightly pulled out chair, the open vent that maybe the kids play around in, the Arabic on the fridge and magnets, the paintings, the clothing, it's impeccably detailed to make this feel like a lived-in place. You can also melee as her, which there's no reason for her to have that ability, at least at this point, but they still give her. All of your basic movement controls, you can jump, you can go prone. No, give me a second. The plates that are dirty and haphazardly placed from dinner. The kids' room where there's 3 beds. It's implied that there was a third child. That third child that was in the rubble. They never mentioned the child. They mentioned the mother once, and that's it. Granted, it's also, this is where the parents sleep. So Farah actually had 2 brothers, but they didn't even mention the other one. They also have a really nice house. It's big. There's, cool technology. They have a TV. I assume this is like the 1990s. Like, they have it's nice. They have 2 TVs. There's more pictures of the kids. Like, there's a lot of effort put in here. They have organic cream. Composition book. Do your homework. Ooh. Yeah. So, basically what I'm just trying to discuss is the developers did their absolute best to make this feel like a real place. There's much more attention to detail put in here than I've noticed in any other interior in the game. And we'll see why. Well, let's check out the children's room. I mean, there's drawings and whatnot. Okay, I'll let the plot progress. But so I come here. Hadir is meant to be the caretaker of Farah in this case, which makes sense because he's the older sibling.
You understand?
Yes, Papa.
Very strong foreshadowing as to what's gonna happen. Pretty obvious that the father is not gonna have a good time. So I don't know if you remember the multiplayer playthrough that we did, but that is a skin from the multiplayer that you can play as. Nevertheless, it's not even the same skin because they modified it so the character has a mask on. So if I hit B, you can actually try to help, but instead hide from the soldier. So the game is immediately showing that the soldier is more than willing to kill children. The game only makes you do that in situations where you either kill civilians or you die. It's okay if Hadir fights the soldier though, because he won't die. So the father's trying to fight against this multiplayer character, and the house starts getting set on fire. Soldier shoots him right in front of the eyes of his own daughter, and then you just hear Hadir say hide. So this starts the stealth segment of this mission, where you play as Farah running from this masked assailant in her home that is out to kill her. She's small enough to fit under furniture, and she does. She does. And this basically becomes a stealth segment. It honestly reminds me of stealth segments from other games. We see Hadir in the corner knocked out. We see the father presumably dead, not moving. And we can hear the Russian soldier call in to his superiors. The house is on fire, and the music is just like a shrill violin note being played. So you have to hide from this man as you go around the house. And eventually, I think now we're meant to... So at a certain point, weapons do spawn. And I think they wanted us to hear that report from that soldier. They're basically kidnapping children, and that soldier is actively looking for people. For Farah and her brother. Farah picks up a weapon, because, like, what else will she do? And then I did it like a second too late. For maximum stealth. They directly gamified this situation by saying that. If an actual child were to go through this, it would be incredibly traumatic. I mean, Farah was incredibly traumatized by this. This specific moment, I like to say, spurred her entire character development as to why she hates the Russians so much. She saw her father get shot and killed. So she attacks him, and because she's a child, she wasn't able to kill him. She also loses her weapon. So we need to go around the house again and scavenge for supplies. This feels like a survival horror game a little bit. You choose when to fight. You look for resources. Obviously, it's not as in-depth as like a Resident Evil. Hadir's still there. We can hear the Russian soldier, like berate Farah and like basically shit talk. He's threatening her. To a regular child, this would be incredibly traumatic and stressful. Every single time he gets angrier. Every single time he hits Farah, and every single time he hurts her. She's getting beat by this man. She just got shot by him. This game lets you play as a child getting shot. Specifically a Middle Eastern child getting shot by a Russian soldier. This is the same kind of things that happened in Afghanistan in the 80s when the Russians invaded. And the game is using that imagery to push this narrative on Russian soldiers. It's using it to characterize and personify a character in the game, which is a valid effort, but I think is still a little disrespectful. So that's a scripted sequence. I didn't fail, even though he still caught me. There, Hadir saved me. So you're told to keep stabbing him. Every single time I have to press the trigger. It's working. While your brother commends you and encourages you, you're told to stab this man over and over again. There's a weapon prompt for an AK-47, the same kind of prompt you see in the game, in the multiplayer, and you hit the trigger to shoot and kill him. Farah falling over with the impact of the gun. Hadir is so small he needs to push the corpse off him. Do note that this isn't a pre-baked sequence. This can happen over there. This can happen in any room. They scripted it to happen anywhere. It's an incredibly dynamic sequence, and if it takes too long, the house will actually burn down more and more. So you check his body for the gas mask, and you take it. And apparently this Russian man's gas mask fits on Farah. The hair is different than the multiplayer model. It's a slightly different model. If you try to take the AK, they struggle to move his body, and they can't. He's that big. I want you guys to just think about how an actual child in the situation would receive this. You know, seeing her father get shot, having to kill a man, because that man was trying to kill not only her but her older brother.
I can't.
The father was alive that entire time. It's a tragic sequence. It's sad.
You survive.
And
Whatever it takes.
his dying words kind of
Never back down.
are carried by Hadir and Farah for the rest of the game. Farah takes those words literally. She will never back down. She will continuously fight the Russians while they're in her country. I'm sorry for running around. I'm kind of antsy. You can see the visuals of the mask kind of warping certain segments. Oh, that was actually the coughing that did that. Hadir took that more literally. He takes anything he would need to do. He would do anything he needs to do to survive. The kids are so small they can't unlock their door. They can't unlock it. The game is just shoving it in your face, the fact that these are small children that you're playing as. We get it. Call of Duty is known for using shock value to market itself and to like hit headlines, but here directly it's just you're playing as a blood-covered child who just killed a man. Pry it open with what? Oh, with the screwdriver. They turn it into a quick time event just to have Farah fall out. There's no reason to make that part interactive. So here we have Hadir take the quintessential Call of Duty point man role, where he walks forward and just, you know, lets you know when to continue with the game. So you can hear the Russian soldiers killing more civilians. The developers co-opted the aesthetic cues and the tonal and historical cues from the actual Russian invasion of Afghanistan, just to know personify and characterize these two characters and give more weight to their plot, and do it in an incredibly gruesome and violent way. And it's not okay. It's just not. It's fucked up. He recognized that child. This is a dead kid in a video game. Sure, there's no bullets, but we can assume that the kid was murdered by the gas that's, you know, out in the air. You can see little marks on these bikes. There's so much detail put into this scene. We can see, you know, like the mural on the wall of these white-looking children playing like. This is heartbreaking. They even like bothered to put the gas canisters there sparking. Jesus fucking Christ. We see dying people in the streets using homemade masks, dead livestock, because apparently you can't have a Middle Eastern village without random livestock. God. This mission in particular, like I said, has such a strong sense of place. I've never been to Afghanistan. I've been to Pakistan, and when I was really young, and I mean, this mission kind of reminds me of how it was. I think I was in Karachi. I was 4, and it visually just reflects a lot of that architecture. There's reuse assets from other missions. That's a sign I recognize. They're just executing people in the streets. So they're abducting women and children for some reason. This makes me so uncomfortable. Back to Russell's article. The narrative director, he talked about how Farah is, quote, she's more dissimilar than some of the other characters our player base will interact with. Spending more time on her background is important. This man in his dying breath tries to assault a child for his mask. That's how desperate he is. Also, there's a hookah. He wants the players to be in the situation that Farah is in. They want them to live through her experiences. Are these walnuts? They want them, like, he wants them to live through her experiences in order to empathize with her. However, it's he's making a baseline assumption that because she is so different than the perceived audiences, white males, younger white males, that they would have to put in extra work to make players empathize with them. And on a surface level, I would kind of agree with that. Coming from my own background, Middle Eastern man, grew up in America, that's my mom. You're on camera, Mom. um, my mom is a nice woman. I love her. I don't think she knew I was streaming. Let me pick that back up. He basically is saying that, like, he's making an assumption about his audience. This is an incredibly beautiful segment of the game. Usually, places in the Middle East, games don't show the greenery of the Middle East, and they actually put in the effort for that. Granted, these are fields. I don't know what kind of plants. Hopefully, not opium. He basically notes that, like, he believes that his audience won't be able to empathize with very easily. So because of that, they need to put in the extra effort. On a surface level, that's okay. It makes sense for them to, first time they have a protagonist that is different than the ones they've had before, maybe put in a little extra work. That extra work, however, was clearly shown in the fidelity of the graphics, her animations. Your vision goes blurry. They're shooting through this wall for some reason. Oh, they executed people. In her animations, the fact that she is a protagonist in the first place is enough. Her voice acting is impeccable. Even her game, like, even at least through the gameplay, the fact that she has gameplay that's so different than everybody else, at least in this mission, and her next mission.
They'll hear you coughing. Hide the gun. Find the gun, and if you get scared, use the phone to distract them. Don't get caught. I won't.
They actually got actual children to voice act these characters, and like the child acting awkwardness is there. It's very much so there. The fact that they put so much time and effort on her character in the first place is enough to get that point across. I mean, I'm a little biased because I empathize with her fully, given my own background, but I guess I am a little biased. Jesus Christ.
There's the gun.
But for some reason they believed that they had to put her in this incredibly stressful, strenuous, traumatic situation for players to get her. So here, you get a gun, the Magnum, which is a weapon in the multiplayer, again. However, they have a completely unique set of animations for using it. It has idle sway like snipers do in the multiplayer. Snipers have idle sway for balancing reasons. Here they have idle sway for thematic reasons, the weapons. You can hide everywhere. You can go places you're not supposed to, just to sneak around. And your goal is to kill these men. You also risk your own brother's life to survive. You call his cell phone to get the guard's attention. If you don't, you're expected to do it inevitably. You have to kill these soldiers. The fact that she has different animations in itself for holding a gun, like, it shows her ineptitude with weaponry. They even added a reload animation where she fumbles with the gun, puts the bullets out, and puts a new set in. And it still has the satisfying click. Give me a second, Hadir. Hadir in this segment doesn't have the green text. It's subtly implied that green text is like the character's own intuition as to who the soldiers around them are, knowing, like, okay, like, I identify that person. It's a look into their psyche. Hadir doesn't have that because Farah isn't in tune with being a soldier yet. They put in so much effort, and this effort is kind of made moot when it's to have such. But it's really disheartening knowing that in order for a character that looks like me to be put into a game, they have to go through the same kind of traumas that we stereotypically have in the news. Yeah, my brother just walked in. Yeah, what else do I have to say? I will continue going through this article as we move forward. Russell, a giant quote that I agree with Russell. He says that the creators feel this woman of color is so entirely foreign to their audience, it was necessary to pull you through a shocking backstory multiple times in order for you to empathize with her, which ultimately feels kind of insulting to the audience. I'm trying to argue that it's not even just the audience that feels insulted. I feel insulted, and not just as the audience, but as a Middle Eastern person. Like, are we not empathetic? I guess not. All of a sudden, Hadir knows how to drive. So here we have Barkov pull Farah out, choke her out, and he speaks Russian for the first time. Which is a stark difference because usually the Russian character still spoke English. And he shoves Farah in the back of this truck, which wasn't there before. It appeared out of nowhere. So Barkov is abducting the civilians for no apparent reason as of right now.
So you are the little devils that killed my soldier. Отлично.
He, right off the bat, picks Farah and Hadir out. That's the start of Barkov's cartoonish villainhood. I talked about villains previously, how they take more than they give. They are the opposite of altruistic. And here, nothing's more opposite of altruistic than wanting to kill children. So we pick back up where the last Highway of Death mission ended off playing as Alex. And, I mean, we were given that look at Farah's backstory to see why she hated the gas, but also why she fights so hard. And how she wants to kill Hadir. How angry she is at him. And obviously Price and Kyle have to come save the day.
It was Hadir. Hadir is the thief. Sorry, I didn't know Hadir.
It's okay, Farah. We'll get him.
We need to unass this target. Now!
What does unass mean? I don't... What does unass a target mean? Yeah.
My brother always wanted to fight without rules.
Do whatever it takes to survive.
Hadir went north. He was picked up by AQ fighters in the foothills.
Voluntarily or by force?
We don't know.
I'm sorry, Farah.
Your brother
So it's
is a
implied
terrorist.
that Hadir has
He's an
joined
American
Al-Qatala?
asset, who is either with or in terrorist hands.
Adir's fight's not with us. He could have killed everyone when he stole the gas, but he chose not to.
How do you know this?
I was there, trying to stop it.
Why didn't you tell me?
We believed it was Al-Qatala. We didn't know it was him.
We know now. We're going after him tonight.
I'll come with you.
You'll be hunting your own brother.
He is not my brother. Not anymore.
Farah drops her
Barkov's
blood,
gonna put a bounty on his head.
apparently for Price's
Any
ragtag,
further complications and we're
multinational,
at war with Russia.
multi-ethnic group.
Complicated.
This is a bad idea, Farah.
We take care of our own here.
Not usually what that means.
It does here. I want Farah on the team. Try not ask him.
Triumphant music kicks in when the white man
Fine.
says it's okay for her to join.
You have execute authority.
This is like a posse cut shot. This looks like the album cover to like the colonizers Wu-Tang Clan.
The
Like,
remaining stolen gas when he made direct contact with Al-Qatala's most brutal enforcer, the Butcher. Surveillance tracked their vehicles to a residential complex in the Akris Mountains, believed to be the Wolf stronghold.
it's basically then implied. It's shown
Alex
that
and
he
Farah will
wasn't
hold
taken
order
with
for
them.
secondary clearance,
He was
while Bravo 6
willingly
leads the assault force to locate
joining
the
them.
chemical agents.
Al-Qatala. He's
Retrieve
part of the
Hadir,
terrorist lead
and kill the
group
Wolf.
now, and so this mission, Hadir's trade-off as from hero into villain is the fact that they need you to put on your night vision goggles, emphasizing it's in the dark. Like the marketing, we'll get back to that. the fact that Hadir's now a bad guy is so strong, so strong. Because while Western characters may do morally deplorable actions, morally questionable actions, Hadir's use of chemical weapons is, at the very least, morally questionable. The game starts right off with a breach and clear segment, no knock raid, morally deplorable. It's not okay when Hadir does it, but it's okay when Price and them do it. We'll see in one of the coming missions more examples of this. So this is another no-knock raid directly on an Al-Qatala compound. This is different because it's in the Middle East. We kill a mother in front of her child. You traumatized. They've shown 3 children, at least 3 children traumatized in the segment. So Farah's entire driving force was seeing a Russian soldier kill her father after seeing her mother die in one of their bombings. This child just saw their own mother get killed by a Western soldier, by a white soldier. But this killing's supposed to be okay. I don't think the game is trying to show perspectives and show the same situation in different lights without a bias. There is a definite bias. Also, they didn't need to breach this house. They didn't need to kill those people. That's not where they were going. You can see the lights from that. Where's the dog? Did he kill the dog? Some bullshit. See, it's okay when this group of soldiers does it, but it's not okay when the Russians do it. That killed him. So I think we're playing as Kyle again. This is just Clean House Part 2. The civilians don't fight back. She fights back. Again, note the woman in the headscarf fights back, but these people. This woman isn't wearing one, and you don't kill her. I wonder why. It is cool that they're showing Muslim women not wearing headscarves, at least in the home, because I mean, oftentimes a lot of Muslim women who do choose to wear headscarves, they don't wear it in the home because they're with their family, people they know and feel comfortable around. It is strange to see that woman wear a headscarf though. Then let's kill the power and put these guys in the dark. Where's the power switch? This?
Killing power.
So we continue this entire segment. Gameplay wise, it still is a pretty enjoyable sequence, even if it is just point and shooting. Thematically, aesthetically, it's not thematically. Aesthetically, it's on point. There's a very strong tone here that the developers do well. It's just, I still feel so weird being a cop doing this. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I missed that guy completely. You get a little more creative with the level design here. I know you need to like go outside on the balcony for some parts. Are there some places I haven't cleared? Maybe this room. The dude looks so Middle Eastern. They even animated his eyes rolling to the back of his head. Jesus Christ. There's another woman here. They say unknown. They don't say civilian. They just say unknown, implying that they would still be bad. Also, the quotes the Al-Qatala members say, these very, it's basically saying it's basically like it's one step away from Allah Akbar. The stereotypical religious prayer. Instead of saying a religious prayer, they just say some propagandized bullshit instead, which to Western developers, I assume, are the same thing. No one in here. Not a lot of detail put into these segments. I think just for visual readability. No one on the balcony. They still let you open it though. Now they get the jump on you, and we see this woman just freak out over the death of presumed her brother or husband or friend. So on the harder difficulty, you actually had to go, I think one of these rooms was locked. You had to go around to open it. They have gameplay differences. Apparently on harder difficulties, these people are more adept at locking their doors from intruders. Moving forward, the rest of the article I'm not cutting bait. I don't know what cutting bait means. His article mentions the fact that in his interview he asked like why they included Farrah, and the narrative director said straight up, it's 2019. He's basically implying that now in RH you can't get away with having a game without a woman. Call of Duty's been doing that for years. I'm glad they included specifically a woman of color as a protagonist. That's great, that's cool, I love that. But the fact that it was out of obligation, not because of like an actual need or want to represent, but instead because they know it's 2019, the game will sell more because of it. It rubs me so poorly, I hate it. Another thing, if you pick up an enemy weapon in these segments, you can't use the laser on them, because there isn't a laser. Western soldiers versus people in caves. It was a long time I've seen memes of it, that Osama bin Laden was believed to be in caves in Pakistan. And here we look for the Wolf, another religious leader who makes videos of himself talking to a camera with dead soldiers. Where we control the characters in this. We go through the caves hunting for them. This entire segment reminded a lot of people of the explained breach on Osama bin Laden's compound when he was assassinated. You breach this person's compound as an elite team of soldiers and then check the caves. Here they actually put you in control of Alex. It's the only time in the game where they make you switch characters mid-mission between protagonists. Also, somehow he loses some of his gear. Also loses his night vision goggles. Back to Farrah's inclusion. Tripwires here. Alex is the one character who can defuse tripwires, apparently. And has scissors to cut things. A little bit I have been watching this one. Yeah, my brother just messaged in the chat. He said, for the little bit I've been watching, a lot of this seems similar to the things you've seen in American Sniper. I haven't seen American Sniper, personally, because it's American Sniper.
Very similar to some of the
Can you hear the robot voice?
American Sniper.
That movie I know was criticized a lot for being incredibly romanticizing Western military intervention, specifically Chris Kyle. And I mean, this game is doing the same exact thing. So, continuing with Farrah's representation, he felt obligated to include a woman in the game. Oh my god! What am I supposed to do there? What am I supposed to do? I'm prone. They quoted Mother Teresa. So it's incredibly hard to see, so I'm sorry if you guys are having a hard time seeing. They included Farrah out of necessity, not because they wanted to, but because they felt like they had to. And it's not out of some sort of moral good, it's just because of obligation. There's been a lot of discussions on politics in games, and I'm sure a lot of people understand them. Basically, fundamentally, gamers, conservative-leaning gamers, are mad that games are getting political, aka just having representation. And because of this, a lot of the representation that has been happening has been very clean or safe, or... That's a cool little model interaction. I didn't expect them to get that deep with their systems. Has been a lot, like, very whitewashed or safe, or like not actually effective. And Farrah's inclusion is just, it's another one of them. In order to make her inclusion seem valid to conservative-leaning gamers, they made her backstory incredibly traumatic and violent and terrible, just so they can empathize with her. That guy wasn't there before. Thematically, being able to understand the subtitles as Alex makes a lot of sense because he does speak Arabic. Oh, the lighting there was nice. On a harder difficulty, that might have actually killed
to know
him.
if any studies have been done with folks who play violent video games. Do you know of any?
I don't know of results off the top of my head, but I know they've been done, and most of them say there isn't really a link. Just because you play violent video games doesn't make you a violent person. Hadir sounds like a godly voice ascending from the heavens, like a soul. It's too. Now he's a bad guy because he empathizes with the supposed terrorists. The same people who are okay with killing civilians, he is aligning with. He drops his own morals. I can't crouch here. What do you mean I can't crouch here? Yeah, so most of the studies say there's no equivalence between the two. However, I think they have been noted that people who in the first place have their own violent tendencies can use video games, or have used video games to like get them out. So like say if someone does have violent tendencies, they may like play video games more violently, or have a stronger inclination to play violent video games. But like the former does not imply the latter. So this segment specifically, gameplay-wise, it feels very different. It feels way more linear. It's more corridor level design, but the fact that it's so hard to see people get to jump on you, and it's way easier to die. The layouts are confusing and hectic. It feels like you're going through an actual underground complex. Gameplay-wise, it's kind of cool. Here you go behind these boards to get the jump on some people. You could have got the jump on them. I got them regularly. Oh shit. She goes right through that trip my trip. Yeah, I mentioned before that the graphics in this game are really nice. They put a lot of effort into making the Middle East seem like a shithole. Yeah. Let's keep moving forward. A lot of this level is just running and gun. 2 bullets got me there. A lot of this level is just more of the same. It's just running and gunning. I know this guy here. So I'm gonna try to get through it as fast as possible. What oh, there is a booby trap. Just because there isn't much of substance to talk about until later on in the level. I do want you to know, just keep in mind, like this, they were trying to, you know, call back to the assassination of Osama bin Laden, obviously, and just look at the visual cues. How does that get me? I'm not even touching. I'll stay crouched. You can shoot through walls. Apparently they set off their own traps. No stock. That's a flashbang. Throwing a Molotov apparently stops the shooting. Didn't on the harder difficulty. You can actually pick up a gun from a gun emplacement here. They usually don't let you do that. They haven't previously, at least. I'm trying to think if there's anything to note here. It's basically just a shooting gallery. The scale feels kind of weird. It feels very claustrophobic and cramped. They split you up for fair here. And you're since he gets hurt here, you're supposed to kind of pity him, like, oh shit, poor guy. And like, look at his strength and his perseverance as he continues going through this cave that he invaded, trying to kill these brown people.
3106 over.
Your radio doesn't work.
All stations, this is Echo 3-1 transmitting in the blind. Target is still in the tunnels. Currently tracking.
You mentioned that he's transmitting in the blind and he's still tracking. Alex previously has had very strong anti-government views. Not anti-government per se, but anti-government regulation for his own actions. Oh, damn. And now that he's free from them, he's able to do what he wants. So here the wolf is doing his little edgy monologue. And this is supposed to be their example of a puzzle. Earlier they taught us how to push these by walking into them. And this actually took me a while to figure out because I was surprised this game would actually make me do a puzzle. They expected me to understand things. That's a first for Call of Duty. Holy shit, that didn't work. Oh my god, that collision does not work. Even when they try to do something, it doesn't work out that well. This segment is a shit show. Yep. Okay. So yeah, it's this vertical climbing segment where you kill dozens of people. It's actually interesting gameplay-wise. It's fun. It's new. There hasn't been much vertical combat in Call of Duty games before. I don't think the gameplay lends itself all too well to it. Neither does their hand-holding. All of a sudden, he has a gun on the ladder too. He just gets a pistol out of, just pulls it out of his ass. It's still interesting, but they force you to listen to the wolf's lines if you could hear it. For some reason, the speakers in this compound, you know, because who wouldn't put speakers in their own compound for their own propaganda? It's incredibly quiet, and I know I have the vocals down a bit, but still, it's incredibly quiet. This doesn't lead anywhere. There's like little they try to make this, they try to give this area a sense of place too. I think they kind of failed at it. You know, just a mattress on the floor doesn't feel lived into me. Neither does this random wood frame. But God. The Wilhelm scream? This is the first time a Pock has saved someone's ass. And you still need to hold forward, because you need your own agency to save yourself still, because you're a white guy.
This way.
He calls Farrah cuz. He's...
Formative.
Do you note that this muzzle with the towel on the end or wrapping isn't in the multiplayer? It's specifically made for this, for the single player. Okay, so coming up is, I'm probably gonna fail this a couple times. We find the wolf and he has a bomb strapped to his chest and you have to defuse it. Directly calling back to where Kyle couldn't save the person with the suicide vest on his chest. Maybe because he's more inept than Alex. Maybe because he couldn't do it. Who knows? But Alex and Farrah can save this man. Thanks to Farrah's expertise. They're starting to give Farrah more of an active role in the game.
There is no escape. This is the end.
They kill him.
We can disarm it, Alex. Help me.
So they really make this a mini game.
Cut the wire exactly when I say, not before.
Ready.
Green wire. In 3, 2, 1. Cut.
She didn't say on one or after one. The fact that they turned this into a set piece feels so weird. There was a suicide bombing in Afghanistan today that killed dozens of people. And the fact that they made it a mini game in a Call of Duty game, I feel weird.
Yellow. In 2, 1. Cut it.
I like.
Last one is red.
There are 2 reds.
The top one. In 3, 1. Now.
So I know I picked the bottom one, but it was one that was physically on top of the other one. That's how I lost the first time. I like how they make Farrah still seem a little unsure in this moment. She's stressed out. She's mixing up her words. She's skipping numbers.
Green wire. In 3.
She may be composed, but she's still human.
Cut.
It would be nice if they gave that same fault and composure to the other characters, specifically the men in this game.
Last one is red.
There are 2 reds.
The top one. In 2, 1. Now.
Cut.
Disarmed. Good job.
Well, thanks to you. Good work. How'd you learn that?
Years of experience.
Imply that she's done this a lot.
All stations, this is Echo 3-1. In the blind. Jackpot. Primary target is KIA.
Alex! It wasn't me. I'm glad it was you.
You bet we couldn't kill him twice.
Thanks, mate.
Kyle is glad he killed the wolf. Kyle has a sense of pride in his country and anger at this terrorist man for killing civilians. Even though, I mean, we'll see. That is put to the test in him.
Congratulations on a job well done. As much as we can all hear the ice in the glass, I'm afraid our toast has to wait.
I'm gonna
Doing
skip this
new friends around
cutscene
the
because it doesn't matter. It's just this game kind of devolves into get the bad guy. It becomes kind of this Avengers ensemble of just like going through set pieces.
Is that you? Yes, let me see.
So now we play as an older Farrah. After years in captivity with Barkov, she is still a prisoner. Her bed has blood stains everywhere, marks and lines, either fingernail just bleed marks, or maybe she was whipped and like her wounds were that shape. Her walls are covered in like basic installation pallets for some god knows reason as a bed frame. There are shackles everywhere. This is a medieval torture chamber. It is grimy, it's disgusting, there's blood on the floor, there's flies everywhere, implying she pees and she just uses the floor as a bathroom. I mean, or maybe these buckets. Thankfully they didn't render anything on the inside. Hadir looks younger. We can assume Farrah also looks younger, which she does, we'll see. Your movement is like wavy, implying that she's hungry, malnourished, dehydrated. Now she has the blue marker. She has some sort of tactical essence. She's been through some shit, so now she's able to tell who's friend or foe.
How long have you been in solitary?
10 days.
You look sick.
No food or water.
Sister.
She should have.
I can take it.
He's looking out for her, but now she's stronger than him.
They're using you to get to me.
They would have to kill me first.
No, Hadir. I need you alive.
She is in a controlling power over Hadir. He doesn't seem all too okay with it. He's trying to do his best to help. He sounds like a little brother trying to show his older sibling, like, hey, look what I did.
Catch.
Okay.
Got it.
Good. Hide it. General Barkov is coming. He knows about the messages. Doesn't know that you are Kareem.
We'll see.
I thought that was supposed to be at first like a big reveal, but apparently she just straight up says that like I am Kareem right there.
Oh look, family reunion.
General Barkov, she knows him now.
You want this to stop, you tell me the truth. Видите его на склад. Make him talk. This one's all mine.
So there's gonna be a lot of torture coming up, so be careful. I know I've made a lot of comparisons between how the Russians treat the Middle Eastern people in this game to how Americans have treated Middle Eastern people.
You had a nice visit with your brother. When can I see him again?
And Guantanamo Bay in specifics,
Go in the corner.
a lot of the forms of torture they've used all have been are in this game that I mentioned. Sensory deprivation. They put Farrah in the hole for 10 days. This is the only time in the game that if you don't listen to an NPC, they like hurt you.
In the corner, I said.
I'm in the corner, dude. Sensory deprivation, she was in the hole for 10 days. Isolation, hole for 10 days. Waterboarding, coming up. Physical abuse, she just tased her. Emotional abuse, you'll see that. Look at how he verbally treats her.
It's hotter than hell in this shithole country.
He talks shit about the country. He drinks water in front of her.
Want some?
They make you hear the slurping sounds he makes. You try to take it, he spills it on the floor.
Let's get you some water.
Let's get you some water. The waterboarding is coming up. I'm gonna pause this. So in this article in the New York Times, they interviewed a lot of people who were at Guantanamo Bay. Many of whom developed mental health problems, severe mental health problems, while they were there, and it was noted by government officials. A lot of them ended up with the same PTSD that American soldiers themselves had. Specifically about if you left Guantanamo Bay, you were most likely going to be traumatized in some form. The U.S. government didn't try or care to see how they treated their prisoners, similar to how Barkov is. Granted, Barkov's portrayal in this prison for Barkov is incredibly cartoonish. He pushes her. Farah is still smaller than the NPCs in this game. She is not fully grown yet.
In there. The chair,
Look at this torture dungeon. It's fucked. You could tell many people died in here. The U.S. government didn't try to take care of their soldiers, and obviously Barkov's cartoonish villainous dungeon they won't take care of their prisoners.
and I can make your life much easier. Now, tell me about Commander Karim and the failed message.
So this is the only time the game lets you say things. By the way, I am Karim. I'm just gonna straight up say it, the truth.
Karim is the leader. You're just a messenger.
Obviously, she can't be the leader for reasons strongly evident.
And you might see your brother one last time. He's gonna give you a drink.
Children were also tortured in Guantanamo Bay. So this is a mini game. And Barkov sounds like a sports commentator in an NFL or 2K game saying, "There you go." Like, this is incredibly, like, I don't know many games that make torture a mini game. GTA did, I know, but this literally gives me the chills.
So strong, Farah. Keep it up and you will see, Hadir. One more time. Who is Karim?
None of these choices matter.
Fuck yourself.
Watch your mouth. Доводи! I found one of
You'd usually have to do that again in the harder difficulties.
It's okay, Hazane.
Quiet.
They shave the women's heads. In Middle Eastern countries, a woman's hair is shown as a sign of their modesty. If they don't show their hair, they're apparently modest. For some reason, they're shaved in this. I don't know what the developers are trying to imply there, but it is a conscious choice that they shave their prisoners. Learned helplessness was also used on the soldiers in Guantanamo Bay. Barkov directly saying that he's in control pushes Farah's helplessness in this situation. And somehow Farah is able to overcome that. Because she's incredibly strong and resilient. They're using this torture as her characterization, which it's not appropriate at all. She already has a strong character. The last mission proved that. Why do they need to torture her? Also, Russell said in his article that I mentioned earlier that we know that Barkov's a bastard. They don't need to show us again and again and again and live through these gameplay segments again and again and again. We know he sucks. We get it.
Congratulations, Farah. You saved a life. I want you to tell me the truth. Or she dies.
I did what you asked.
No, I said the truth. Who is Karim?
She has a name.
The messages are from me.
I think if you say eat shit, you actually die.
I am responsible.
Of course you are.
You literally said it to him earlier and he denied it just so he can torture you a little bit. He's a piece of shit.
Tell the others, their fearless leader has broken.
You get pistol whipped. This article I read about Guantanamo Bay, they interviewed...
You must be hungry, Farah. Eat. Then we'll talk.
He has the same striped shirt as the man who killed Farah's parents. Or dad, at least.
You think this is a game? Huh? You think you can beat me?
Nowhere does his portrayal seem realistic to me. It seems cartoonish.
Your brother took a key from me. Where is it?
Did you lose a key?
One is missing, but we have the other.
What does the key open?
You think you're so smart? Karim.
Karim is a man's name. Conscious choice to use that.
Your brother stole from me.
I'm just gonna be quiet.
Silence. I can fix that.
And he beats her over and over again. Talks about how this country is a breeding effort.
Breeding ground for terrorists.
And he puts on a gun, on gloves, to cavity search her.
Thief will harm my country. I will protect Russia.
He starts choking her.
Quiet.
Your screen goes red. And then a bombing stops them from paying attention. She's saved by the skin of her teeth because someone started bombing them.
You didn't save your people, Farah Karim. You killed them.
Farah's message evidently got out to whoever heard it. We'll learn later this is Captain Price, because obviously she can't be saved without a white guy helping her. And still, after all that, she has the strength to escape this. Miraculously, her cuffs are loose. She's able to break out. We never learned where the key was put. In here, actually. No.
I need a tool.
Not in there.
Spoon. Perfect.
They modeled her using a spoon. Like, look at that detail. You can see the metal, like, the cleavage on the metal of it ripping. On top of those chains freaking out. You could use that to open up this metal grate, like to pry it open. Before, Farah had a hard time prying things open, but now she can easily. Shows her growth as a character, which is an interesting way of putting it through mechanics and gameplay. Her animations are different compared to when she was a child, but I still have a lot of issues with this. They put effort into her representation. They did. They could have just done a little bit harder. So yeah, now you have the weapon rock. For some reason, aim is capitalized, but this cartoonishly big red button is what you're supposed to throw a rock at to open all the gates, because every prison has an emergency button like that, apparently, within arm's distance from a cell. So all around here is Russian propaganda. Note that the propaganda here is actually in Russian, not English. When in the last mission that took place in this country, it was in English. So you go back to where you were tortured and use the same thing that was used to torture you. You use it to escape. You can use this to climb. I think it's up here. Yeah. They're supposed to show that. I mean, game designers love putting bright lights in places. Let me go back to my article. A lot of the discussion and discourse around the treatment of prisoners in Guantanamo Bay is from a Western perspective, and a lot of times it's compared to the treatment of American soldiers in places like the Middle East and in Vietnam. However, here I think it's a very interesting contrast between that and the treatment of these fictional characters in this fictional Middle Eastern country by Western power. Same methods of torture are done upon them, same traumas, similar traumas are put upon them, and I mean, I think I wouldn't say I'm the first person to make the comparison, but I couldn't find anything. And now Fair is more than capable of killing people. It's not implied how she became so capable while in Barkov's captivity, Whether she escaped and was recaptured, nobody knows. It's convenient because now the vents are the size of her teenage self. She still has the spoon on her. You're given a gun. The guns still have different animations for reloading and shooting. She holds it way closer to her face. Her hands are visibly smaller than the multiplayer models and the single player models previously shown. Melee animation is different. Everything is different. They still went out of the way to show the fact that she's like not the best in tuned with guns yet. But still, it's if you put the effort in there to characterize her, you didn't need to go the extra mile for everything else. Everything else might have been a little tad bit excessive.
Over here, sisters. You escaped. I knew she would. The guards left. What's
And since it's 2019, according to the developers, they have you part of a all-female squad that basically just leaves this building and like fights their way out. And it's cool. Imagery, it's cool. I like the imagery. It looks tight. It's just knowing that the developers did this out of what is fundamentally a financial obligation so they don't get canceled on Twitter instead of because they actually wanted to include these characters bothers me. Knowing that a white guy did this bothers me. So yeah. You in this segment you get control of an AK-47. The weapon itself sways way more than weapons usually do in this game. Her hands aren't as steady. She can't control the recoil as well. She reloads slowly and struggles with a tad. I can't get more ammo. Damn. There's more guns. Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted the one with the scope. It's to note that, like, technically at this point, Farah should have had no professional weapons training, but all of a sudden she's able to do it. And I'm not trying to nitpick here all of a sudden, you know, like, I didn't nitpick with the other characters and now I'm nitpicking here. It's not because I'm trying to, like, say, like, oh, she wouldn't be able to do this in real life, because one, this is a game, and two, if the other characters are able to do random supernatural feats, if a street cop is able to, like, fire automatic weapons perfectly and do nighttime raids, who's to say that Farah can't do the same? It's just funny seeing how they change their gameplay to fit their narrative and how little they usually do it. And when they do it, it still feels a little half-assed. They experimented with stealth in the last mission with Farah, and it would have been really interesting seeing them continue it. However, instead they went towards a generic shooting gallery. The music that's playing in the background is the same music that plays in the multiplayer matchmaking menu. I know ludonarrative dissonance is a term that's thrown around a lot, and a lot of people hate it, myself included, a little bit. You learn how to slide here because apparently she can do tactical slides while shooting. Yeah, it's a better scope. Usually in multiplayer, when you switch to a sidearm, it's faster than switching to an assault rifle, but Farah doesn't seem to have that. It's weird seeing how they try to keep up their little status quo for the gameplay, but decided to change it up a bit. So there's a sniper in this segment. So this is probably the next. It's been a while since I've had a more open field of combat for you, but I mean now is an interesting time to do it. Specifically when how it evolved is you have way more limited weapon options, and like it's actually way more difficult. You have to get longer range shots off with the AK, which I did say previously that's kind of dog shit as a gun in this game. You have limited weapons, you have more things to take care of, there's a lot more routes to the mission, you have a sniper you have to take care of. It's maybe the bigger scope is useful. They call Farah Kareem here. Rest. She's still set Like, Farah has the composure now to be able to actively mourn in the middle of combat and not be shook. It's crazy how they use this traumatic event to characterize her, to make the player empathize with her, but they also use that traumatic event to basically make her a soldier superhero overnight. Well, characters like Alex and Kyle, I mean, they didn't have an event like this in their lives. Technically, you know, they're trained people, but who knows? Maybe maybe in their training they just went through multiple traumatic events so they can become super soldiers. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. As much as I hate this mission, like, it's so cool seeing bald Middle Eastern women just... They quote Farah in the death scenes. I did not mean to shoot you. Doreen, I'm sorry. Again, I don't even know if these are real names. I know... There's a lot of enemies here. Playing this on the harder difficulty was not a fun time. It still feels like your bullets do less damage in this mission. Like, so if you look in the bottom right, there's a silhouette. They didn't change the silhouette. It's the same silhouette as the multiplayer, and instead of like a generic man in tactical gear, when it could have been a woman, because I mean, apparently it's 20. Oh, sorry, they can't. It's 2019. They need to be inclusive. Holy, what the fuck? I really wonder what this game could have been and how fair it could have been written if they included her because they wanted to, not because they felt like they had to. And I wonder how her treatment would have been if they felt like players could have actually empathized with the Middle Eastern character. Like, I'm genuinely curious. That guy's using an RPG, which is usually put in the hands of Middle Eastern men as terrorists. I think it's just kind of funny seeing that. Even if the player model changes on the enemies, they still use those race-based tactics, even if they don't totally fit, according to the developers' perspectives, what that person should be using. I think it is probably convenient that Russians are also stereotyped to be using AK-47s too, because they assume their player base associates enemy with AK. You know, like terrorists or Russians, the same thing to them. It's not. That was sarcastic. You can actually see through the seam of the gun there in that animation for a second. On the harder difficulty, shooting at it made them miss. Oh, well, nope, that's death. Did I hit? Nope. Did I get a checkpoint there? You know, I'm trying to get through this as fast as possible because I'm through my notes again. That torture sequence, I think you can. I feel really uncomfortable speaking about it. I think you can make some pretty strong conclusions on it yourself. Just seeing how they treated this Middle Eastern woman, seeing that they put it in the hands of, that treatment in the hands of the Russians, not the Americans, who, I mean, have. If you look up American war crimes in places like Afghanistan, you know they've done some shit. And it's surprising that they didn't actually give that kind of villainy to them. It's not surprising, it's just sad they didn't. I think Spec Ops The Line is the only game that's ever, that I've played, that has shown like the fact that American soldiers can commit war crimes. I mean, they actively have you be an American soldier commit a war crime. But still, that game was heralded as brave because they did that when, I mean, other games should at least, I wish they would do that. The weapon variety in this segment is less lower. I framed it as a gameplay challenge earlier. You can still crawl under these, that's cool. I framed it as a gameplay challenge earlier, but it's really, I can tell it's a budget constraint thing. They might not have had the money to animate Farah using all these weapons because, I mean, they made a clear distinction between how she handles these guns and how she handles other weapons. So here we have Deus Ex Price. pull up and save her.
Commander Karim.
I'm Karim.
We got your message. Lieutenant Joe Price. Where are the others?
In there. Straight ahead.
Stay close.
Price without a beard looks goofy. Yeah, so Lieutenant Price, in Call of Duty 4, the game this is the remake of, he was a lieutenant in a flashback mission, so it's interesting seeing him be a lieutenant in this. Here Hadir is all the way across the complex. You can't really save him in this thing. Thanks to Captain Price's intervention, they're able to save him. It's not fair, open the door. And they have Price help her pry it open directly. They make you hit the button. It's a quick time event to save these people from a burning area. Hadir and Farah already survived a burning building before. Now it's Farah that saves him, instead of him saving her. He takes on the role of she takes on the role of caretaker for him. It really bothers me that they had Price go out of his way to save her.
6 to Cobalt 4, confirming station time.
10 minutes.
Sounds a little younger too.
Hold orbit. Hurry now. Barkov's gonna come and claim his dead.
Yalla, Tazerna.
You know he's gonna make you pay for this.
We will make them pay.
We'll be ready.
My men have cleared the road to the north. You can camp there, it's safe.
Thank you.
The revolution begins now, sister.
The war begins now, brother.
Even war is a high ground. Stay on it.
He gives him, you know, this younger Price is more like attached to the morality. Still, at least in times of war. And he directly warns him, like, stay on that path. You know, like he somehow knew Hadir was going to stray from it. But also, it's implying that in his naivety, he still believed in morality. And as he gets older, he drops it. Look, he has a beard now. He's older.
There's nothing simple about it.
Well trained.
Also, the fact that he felt like he needed to warn them just to keep the moral high ground, it's kind of implying that he thought they could at least stray from it. Why would they stray from it? Can't there be a rebellion in the Middle East without people doing deplorable things?
But this is bigger than Hadir now.
I'm skipping this cutscene. It's politics between the two people. Nikolai is a returning character from Call of Duty 4 as well. He was informant as well as a pilot. He does the same thing in this. Instead of informing on the Russians, he's informing on Al-Qatala. He's also kind of funny. He's a much needed breath of fresh air. So Al-Qatala is openly carrying guns here. Kyle is directly mentioning easy shot. Let's kill him. Even unprompted. Nikolai has a rockin' mullet. Price literally says, get evil. This mission shows, is in direct contrast to what Price just said in the last one. It's a reflection of Price dropping his morality. You can... I like this gun better. Wait. They let you pick a gun here, which is like one of the few times they set it up like this. And Nikolai is able to get these guns for some reason.
Oh no, you want another shot at the butcher?
Don't go deep enough for that sick bastard, sir.
You'll have your chance. Right now, we need the butcher alive.
They push how much Kyle hates this man. How much?
That's not bad.
That's all I got.
Sweep the guards up so they can't alert the others. Then move it on the rear door. Watch. Comes on my signal, not before. Easy, easy, mate. We've got permits, right? Show him. Now. Nikolai, trash.
The first time I did this, I messed that up.
You think of everything.
Nikolai's gonna put the bodies in bags. Jesus Christ.
Door, Sergeant, take point. Check the shots. Butcher gets us to Hadir. We need a breather in case.
Retaliation. Hey. Huh? Hey.
So the Butcher runs away instead of fighting. This becomes a chase sequence, which is another callback to Modern Warfare, the original, because he had a chase sequence against, in that game, a Russian man, in this game, a Middle Eastern man. And he actively tells his soldiers to protect him. It's understandable because he's a higher up in the military, but it's not understandable. It's cowardly. He says a witty catch line with the fact that it's a bar. He says last call. I hate this game. Like the Call of Duty's like, at this point the game has devolved into full like American action movie. There's another segment where they have civilians, and for some reason Price needs to actively warn you not to kill civilians. They assume the player will. I mean, I have on accident, but the fact that he says it, I don't think it's like a warning, a contextual warning for, you know, gameplay reasons. Maybe it's just another sign that they completely distrust their player base of having an IQ high enough to stop that, to not kill civilians. Oh my god. Oh, there's children in this. The Butcher is about to escape. He's shooting civilians. You literally have to watch these civilians die by the Butcher. The Butcher blames you for this. It's a multiplayer map. A lot of assets used from a multiplayer map. Or maybe the other way around. There's a slight delay between when you pull the trigger and when the Uzi bursts. And I think it shoots because I think it's a reflection of its real world like firing mechanism. There is a like a split second. I think it's like a reliability thing. I don't know. The Uzi is like usually it's a cheaper. Oh my god, did I shoot her? God damn it! It's a cheaper gun, so it makes sense why it would be in a a rebellious force's hands. I mean, they showed that level of detail and respect to the fucking weapons in this game. It's also really interesting to see how they follow like the visual language a lot of games have previously set up. Go towards the clutter, go to where there's detail, because we know that's where you go. Ignore the walls that are waist high or whatever. They have like 3 different routes through here. Why do they need that much detail?
Watch for reinforcements.
And then he gets hit by a truck. That's what's... Oh, it's Nikolai's truck. They shot and gunned down a bunch of people, but they can cleanly leave. So you crawl in the back with him. And you use an RPG in an area with civilians. Use a rocket. A goddamn bazooka. In a place with civilians. Don't ignore the fact that it has unlimited ammo. All your guns in this segment have unlimited ammo. It's literally a turret segment. At least it's creative because it has reloading and they give you some choice in the weapons you use. It thematically makes a little more sense than getting a minigun in this segment. But it's still an unlimited ammo rocket launcher in the middle of a civilian-filled area. Is there not unlimited ammo? Maybe I lied. Now that the cops are here, you know, your job is done. And apparently it's okay, because the cops won't arrest you for killing a bunch of people in the middle of the street. Now, compared to the last mission, you're on the entirely other end of the torture side. But it's okay, because the Western people don't, you know. That guy in the furry jacket is also another multiplayer skin.
Sergeant. Get your head in the game, Sergeant.
So Kyle is mad. and Kyle's willing to torture him.
Where's the package? Pulling in now. Okay. Go to Nikolai. You get a package. You come back here. Right?
So in the last mission, you were on the other end of the torture, and while Price isn't, you know, while Price isn't outright,
What is it?
Truth serum.
while Price doesn't waterboard or like do things of Barkov's nature,
Open up.
he still threatens the life of somebody the other person cares about. You have the Butcher's wife and kid.
For negotiation. Perhaps the butcher will have a change of heart.
Mama, what's happening?
Escort family. And he grabs them forcefully and pulls them out of the car. And they stick in the corner like a weapon view model. Your speed is made slower. That's probably how they're rendered in this segment. God. They're putting you in the shoes of Barkov. Instead of displaying... Maybe this could be interpreted as like showing how both sides are evil. It's instead kind of excusing how one side's evil is okay and the other side isn't. Price gives you a choice. It's another time where they have choices. I'm going to say I'm in this because I want you to see what happens. Jaeger, that's the name of the multiplayer operative. I think you unlock him for doing this mission. And he gets mad all of a sudden that now you have more, you're threatening his innocent lives. This could be seen as Kyle eating his own words, you know, now he's going to be doing something that he didn't, like he asked for this, and now he's doing it.
You promised you'd keep this away from us.
Captain, I can't do this.
Excuse me.
Jaeger can do it even though he has a bunch of tally marks.
Hey, no.
So you can aim at him, he doesn't care. You aim at the family, he freaks out.
Hey, look at me. Stop. They have nothing to do with this.
I can pull the trigger here, and I kind of want to do it to see what happens. I'm pretty sure there's a blank in the gun, like it doesn't actually hurt them.
Sergeant.
There's no bullet.
You pulled the hammer, Sergeant, not me.
Yep.
Rest assured, I wouldn't let the Sergeant brandish a loaded weapon indoors unless he had to. Now, last chance, where's the gas?
So if I pointed at the family, that would have counted. I can load the bullets.
Hey. No, leave him. Listen to me. Karitka Theater. No, I am not, I swear to you, I'm not. The gas is there, Karitka Theater, I swear to you.
Where's the deal?
Young blood, you're too late to stop him. Go, Sergeant. Save some fucking Russians. General Barkov already be dead. Dear. He's going after Barkov. We're done with him. You take him in.
And that's a problem, apparently, because they need to protect the Y guy in this.
And leave our land alone. Go, Sergeant.
Man, empathize with that. You can kill him here, actually.
Do what you want with me.
And apparently he's okay with a Western man killing him. I'm just gonna leave, because last time I killed him. If you leave him, I'm pretty sure the police arrest him.
Cruiser is yours. It will get you out of the city. I think it's in Barkov's estate. We're gonna kill him and start the World War. What if we kill him first?
Love your neighbor.
Get in the car.
World building. Alright, that's the end of the mission. Then that's the end of the playthrough. The next mission, you play as Alex, you extract Hadir, but it's more so focused on the Russian representation than the Middle Eastern representation. And the last mission, you get Barkov. And Farah kills Barkov. Farah gets her revenge. That may be of note. I suggest you probably watch a video of that, because that mission's long. It's not really fun. But yeah, that was my playthrough. Having to re-record these was not fun. Playing this game again, I had a lot of insights from it, which was cool. I derived a lot of things. I noticed a lot of things I didn't notice the first time. First time I kind of had fun, because there's enough gameplay variety, and like they do get more creative with the mission design than a lot of other Call of Duty games have, which is cool. At least like the level design and the weapons you use and whatnot. And as much as I dislike the Farah segments for what they have tonally, gameplay-wise, the fact that they are different is, again, an interesting change of pace. But yeah, this playthrough has trained me to like have a way more analytical eye when I'm playing these kinds of games. Just notice things a lot more easily, and be able to articulate these things, talking while playing and just saying my ideas. I'm sure you've noticed I'm a little bit choppy when it comes to talking while streaming, but I don't know. This has been good practice for that, and I'm glad I did it. I'm not kind of glad. I am glad. Moving forward, recommended readings. If you check the drive folder, there's all the articles I mentioned, all of my notes. Games. I suggest you play the original. This is an improvement on the original Call of Duty 4, mainly because the Middle Eastern characters in that game, whereas a villain who wasn't even cartoonish, he wasn't even a villain, he just shot a guy and then they made him bad, and that's it, and just terrorists. I guess now they at least have a Middle Eastern character who's a protagonist, and they actually characterize their villains a little bit, which is progress. If you want respectful representations of the Middle East, Assassin's Creed historically is pretty okay. Still made by international, like people from all over the world, which is cool. I think the game is called Dujana. It was made by a white guy, and it has that like, it's a really artsy indie game that's kind of all over the place, but it does take place in what is fundamentally the Middle East. It has a lot of Middle Eastern tones and aesthetics. And I from the gameplay that I've seen, it doesn't seem tokenizing. It doesn't seem racist. It actually seems kind of cool. It takes advantage of that aesthetic, and I think the themes that I've read about it kind of are a little respectful. Spec Ops: The Line, I mentioned that before. After playing a bunch of like cookie cutter military shooters, like the Medal of Honor reboot, every Call of Duty game ever, damn near, Battlefield 3 and 4. Spec Ops: The Line was a breath of fresh air, because while gameplay wise it's exactly the same, it uses that monotony to its benefit. Play it, going blind, it's great. The fact that I can't name many games is really heartbreaking. Maybe I'm at fault for not going out of my way to find them, but I mean, it would be nice to, just have a game with an Uncharted budget, where the main character is a Middle Eastern person and is good. Yeah, thank you for watching. That should be it. Cool. Alright, bye. Oh yeah, and watch the multiplayer playthrough. Watch that. Alright, bye.